Not gonna lie, it doesn't hit the same way as yesterday's, but it's real good. I mean, shout out to the crew, Stochastic Fantasy behind the scenes crew. Just absolutely dominating with this new graphics music sponsor combos. I am not upset. Look at the little fade out, the little details. It's the details. Like being here on Friday morning. That's what we're all about. We're back on the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic on the Twitters, and I'm here as I am every single day with my good buddy, my partner in crime, Nick Lepri at Notorious Fantasy. He runs the Notorious Fantasy channel by Stochastic, our brother channel. And we are here bringing you our flex, start, sit rankings, and of course, answering all of your questions. Nick, this fine Friday, I'm sure you've had your lollipop, oh lollipop. And now it's time to pop into the rankings. What's up, man?
What's up? How's everyone in chat doing today? We had a wonderful stream yesterday. We got up to, I think, we had 150 viewers at one point, so that was pretty solid.
Very nice.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys had a good time last night. That game was awful. I got a comment after last night's game. Someone commented, I'm never listening to this guy again. I was like, what'd you start, Curtis Samuel or something? Like, are you that mad about Curtis Samuel, who I said to start? I thought that was very funny. That was awful game, and Curtis Samuel needs to learn how to catch the football.
Just horrific out there. The under crushed on a 38-point total. These Thursday night games make you want to pour bleach in your eyes. I'm not gonna lie, I started watching another scary movie. It's that time of year with my fiance during the second half. I did catch the Brian Robinson touchdown. Happy for that, dude. What did I say? Even in a game where the winning team scores 12 points, B-Rob Jr. gets in the end zone. Love to see it. Love to see everyone in chat popping in. Welcome, guys. Happy Friday. Rise above anything. What up, Matt and Nick? And he got a Chase. I received Chase, traded D-Hop. What do you think of that trade to start things off this fine Friday?
Yeah, me and him talked about that when he was making that trade. I do like that trade a ton. I mean, I do think D-Hop is going to be good, but I think there's also a chance that with Hollywood Brown there, maybe his target share goes down slightly. And if I'm being honest with you, right, you're buying Jamar Chase on the cheap, right? Jamar Chase will never be this cheap. Again, people think that he's down bad, that he's not going to bounce back or something. Look, it's not like last year, every game he was ripping off fucking 35 points, right? So I just think he's going to be perfectly fine. So I love Jamar Chase, and I'm going to keep ranking him inside the top 10 of my like wide receiver rankings. I think it's crazy to rank him anywhere lower, even if he hasn't lived up to that yet.
I think this is an absolute steal, rise above anything. Absolute steal. I still have high hopes for the overall opportunity and efficiency of the Cincinnati Bengals offense rest of season. And while Hopkins should lift the Arizona offense, which, by the way, should find themselves in plenty of shootouts because of their bad defense, this is a great trade. Great job, man. Great start to the day. Ross Bob, don't get those names mixed up because you'll think he's a painter. Should I trade Nick Chubb and Deontay for Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, and Debo?
Oh, I think you're going to have to, right? That's a crazy trade. That's a big trade. I think I would do it. But, man, it feels like at this point you shouldn't do that. So, actually, I'm going to say no.
Wow.
No. But, yeah. That is
okay, so I'm doing this trade. You're getting so much starter value. This hurts to do because of how good Nick Chubb has been. But at the same time, he's a player that has a great running back too on his team, isn't overall on a hyper efficient offense. He is the reason it is efficient. So if he gets injured and isn't his normal elusive self, it kind of lowers the entire offense at this point. Maybe when Deshaun Watson comes back. One thing I would say, Ross Bob, if you're like, 5-1 or something, or 4-1 or something, maybe you don't do this. Maybe you don't do this trade, but that is a lot of firepower. This is essentially a first, and a second.
Yeah.
From 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, we're also 5 weeks later, right? And we're looking at this now with how good Nick Chubb is. I don't know. That's why it's kind of difficult to do, because I think Nick Chubb could even level up further with Deshaun Watson. Like, they could just be scoring way more points. I don't know. I mean, I think it's fine to accept. It is close to me, even though it is a 2 for 3.
This feels like one of those trades that helps change the course of an entire league That is a big one, Ross Bob. Good breakdown.
Huge trade.
And yeah, let's, why don't we just start throwing the tiers on the board? Because most people in tier 1, guys, if you have start sit decisions in tier 1, you are flying high at the moment. You have all 5 of those players we just discussed or something like that. Basically, the tier 1, the S tier of players are not situational players, where we don't look at the matchup really unless the player is significantly injured or literally not playing. We're always suggesting to start those players. We're almost always suggesting to trade for those players. That's wide receiver from yesterday, I believe.
Oh, what the fuck? I clicked on tiers. You hate to see that. I clicked the wrong button then. I'll fix it.
How dare you? How dare you? Let's pull up some more questions while Nick pulls up his flex rankings. Oh, no. Michael, we're going to help you out. You're going to have to shoot for some ceiling over floor. But at a certain point, don't get that 75-point week while the rest of your league is scoring 125. Don't have that catastrophic week. It's okay. We can overcome low numbers. Nick, your face, buddy. It's
because
right.
I pulled it up and it was a black screen. I clicked the button and the whole screen was black. That made no sense. Okay, I fixed it. Don't worry.
Yes,
I also would have started Curtis Samuel over Brian Robinson last night.
Your
and if he
computer
caught
just
that
Chicago
ball,
Bared. Sorry.
Okay, well, if you're looking at that game and Curtis Samuel catches that ball, then you're probably not like, oh, wow, I'm mad I started Curtis Samuel, right? You shouldn't feel like an idiot. Like he was a good play. He just didn't catch the one ball that would have changed the course of the game. Obviously, when you look back, you're like, shit, I feel like an idiot, but you shouldn't feel that bad. It's not your fault Curtis Samuel couldn't catch the ball. That would have been a huge play.
Bummers all around. That game was a huge bummer. I saw a tweet from former Stochastic analyst Kyle Dvorak. He says, I don't know if it's possible for a game to give you IBS, but this game is trying. Okay. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. I guess I just want to point out the players who... I want to point out the players who have snuck their way in because of injury designations to their teammates. Didn't expect Ramondre Stevenson in the top 5 of our flex rankings at the beginning of the season, and yet here we are. And Kenneth Walker at number 12 as well. The rest of them are players who you picked in the first 1 to 2 rounds of fantasy drafts.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you should do if you're watching right now is take a mental snapshot of this. Here we are in week 6 of a real life NFL season, and it's not that far in the past that you were drafting all of your teams, right? You can actually remember the draft at this point. It's not Christmas. You haven't had enough eggnog to just like ruin your memory from the summer. Think about the range of outcomes for certain mid-round running backs. Kenneth Walker was a player that we were kind of down on, but kept explaining why he would creep into people's draft plans in the 8th and 9th round. You loved Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny looked incredible, but he had injury downside. Damian Harris, same thing. Ramondre Stevenson looked like the better yards per touch player. And so while we have to talk about which players we like more than others during draft season, you have to make your own decisions because things get crazy at the running back position, especially. Anyone else you want to point out here as either surprising or you're fading or it's all systems go rest of season?
What's funny is just to go back to what you're talking about. I did a couple of drafts yesterday. Not going to mention where it was because they're not the sponsor of today's video, but I did a bunch of drafts yesterday. And man, oh man, does the ADP look so different. It's so crazy how things go. There's like 2 tight ends going to the first round, 3 quarterbacks. You're seeing guys like just their ADP is just so different. It's very interesting. Like, it was an interesting exercise to see just how people view players right now compared to just 5 weeks ago. There's guys that were going in like the 7th round that aren't even drafted. So very fun.
Really? That's insane. You know what else is insane? I didn't see the social link go out, and so I got to share it with the people. That's what I'm doing right now. I want the people to know that we're, I'm happy for the dozens of people in here already asking questions. Actually, let's get to them. But we got more people in here that we want to have at the party. Honestly, I want to jump to tier 2 quickly here because I want to get to people's tougher decisions, and let's get to some of those tougher decisions. Garrett Wilson or Deontay Johnson. Sorry, Deontay Johnson. Max asks, that's Deontay for me, but by a hair.
To me, it's Deontay significantly. Like, I don't trust Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson. I mean, I don't even think that's a hot take. He hasn't done anything with Zach Wilson to prove to me that he can be the guy that would be in my lineup. Now, Deontay Johnson hasn't looked good, but I'm going Deontay Johnson.
Yep. Okay. I mean, Garrett Wilson, man, he's got the ceiling.
He's a great player.
I just don't know if the Packers are going to. The Packers are a decent defense, even though they blew it against the Giants. It doesn't mean they're a decrepit defense. At the same time, I think you got to go with Deontay Johnson, who still is getting the opportunity value to be a wide receiver too, despite Pickens coming on with Pickett in play.
Yeah,
Travis Kelce, just an insane stat line. 23 at 23 there. 25 yards, 26 yards, 4 touchdowns, barely getting tackled on those touchdowns. James Conner, kind of a placeholder, right? Because we really don't know his status, but we figure we put him in there in case you guys do get the news on Sunday morning that he's good to go. And then there's the aforementioned Jamar Chase, David Montgomery, who had to be ranked here, but I don't know. I feel like he drastically underperformed. And then Alvin Kamara, who I still think has a huge ceiling rest of season. Taysom Hill won't have the 40-point days every single week.
Yeah, I also don't think most people expected that. Like, I knew that game was going to be bad, but I also thought they were going to just feed the ball to David Montgomery, which is what they did last week. And then they gave it to Khalil Herbert, who couldn't score a touchdown. I don't know. It was a disaster of a game. But I do think it is interesting that Alvin Kamara is only at 18. Like, the fact is, Taysom Hill smashed last week, and yet Alvin Kamara still had a really good game. So now imagine what happens if Taysom Hill doesn't score 4 touchdowns. How good could Alvin Kamara be? So I think I would have Alvin Kamara ranked higher than this.
I if you had him in the top 12, if you had him above Tyreek Hill, certainly above David Montgomery, not crazy at all. Then you get to this wide receiver core that you have to bet on every single week, but let's not pretend there isn't downside for Chris Godwin. You know, he's dealing with another injury here. We've already seen the downside for Jamar Chase, even with T. Higgins banged up. And even Marquise Brown. I mean, hats off to Marquise Brown, wide receiver 5 in expected fantasy points, within the top 10 in total fantasy points per game. Still, there's some uncertainty there, and we've already seen some people being very aggressive on DeAndre Hopkins. So certainly the crowd thinks that Brown is sort of a false wide receiver 1 rest of season. What do you feel about him, especially with the running back core in Arizona banged up?
Yeah, according to ADP of those drafts I was doing yesterday, D-Hop was going 2 picks ahead of Hollywood Brown. I disagree with that, if I'm being honest with you. Yep. I think Hollywood Brown should be going ahead of him. I also think that when DeAndre Hopkins returns, it's not necessarily going to derail Hollywood Brown. It's more going to actually derail, I would think, Zach Ertz. So I'm still very excited about Hollywood Brown. Maybe he doesn't finish as like a top 3 receiver or something. Like, that could be a legitimate trajectory for him if D-Hop wasn't coming back. Obviously, he's going to. So I still think he could be a top 12 receiver. So I'm pretty confident in Hollywood Brown, and I'm going to continue to rank him higher than D-Hop until we are proven that that's not the case.
Maybe not a top 24 overall flex player, but top 36. Yeah, he's still in my starting lineup in most normal size leagues, guys.
Yeah, even in like the 2 receiver, 1 flex league, he's going to make your lineup every single week. So,
okay. Cool. If Benjamin starts, he's in this tier 2, maybe tier 2B. But if Connor's out, Darrell Williams seems like a no-go already. Yeah, that's good to go for Benjamin, especially against a Seattle defense who cannot stop anyone on the ground or through the air.
Here, real quick, I just wanted to ask you a question. It wasn't in chat. Who would you rather start? Imagine James Conner does not play. Would you rather start Kenneth Walker or Benjamin? I was asked this question 50 times in chat yesterday, and I think it's super close. I went with Kenneth Walker, but slightly.
Yep, that's me too. Kenneth Walker has less competition from the quarterback rushing. We thought Geno Smith would be a rusher. He has not. He's actually been a passer. So Kenneth Walker is significantly more talented than the other running backs around him and doesn't have significant quarterback rushing competition like Kyler Murray will bring to Benjamin. That doesn't mean, sorry, I have to caveat this because I think a lot of people come back and they play a zero-sum game in fantasy football. That doesn't mean Benjamin can't fall into the end zone twice, catch 5 passes, and somehow have 3 more points than Kenneth Walker, right? They're in a positive game script in Arizona. Seattle's defense sucks, but Kenneth Walker is the play because of the opportunity values and the outside forces that aren't working against him that we can absolutely narrate for Benjamin.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just thought that was a really interesting question. And it was a question that not just one person had, like 5 different people asked that question.
That makes sense. Here's a trade question with Walker involved. Judy Mixon Gallup for CD and Walker. So you're still getting a piece of that Dallas offense. Again, Mixon moving in a lot of deals here because he's underperformed so drastically compared to opportunity-based expectation.
I think I would do that. Like, I don't really have that high of a view of Judy. Gallup is just kind of like he's going to have good games with Dak. He's going to have bad games. CD is pretty locked in with Dak, and I think Walker's going to have big seasons. So I would do that. I'm also not fully sold on Mixon. He's more of a guy that gets a lot of volume compared to a guy that you project that's going to have a lot of efficiency.
I think this is a yes for me. I want CD and Walker. You also get a free roster spot, which means that you can play the waiver wire. You can work the bye weeks a little bit better. Everyone's in tough decision mode right now, especially if you play in leagues with defense and kicker. Like, you got bench spots that are burning holes right now. So if you can get a free spot mid-season with a great player upgrade like CD and Walker, who would probably go second round if we knew what we know right now, beginning of the season, it's a good deal. Let's move to tier 3 here. This is a good tier of players and probably one where people aren't making a whole lot of tough decisions. This one, I actually see players who you can make arguments to keep them on the bench. I'll start with number 36 right there at the bottom right, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons, going against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I realize the 49ers are losing people left and right. Nick Bosa's banged up. They lost Emmanuel Mosley in the cornerback position, and he was one of their top corners. And so you could say Drake London has enough of an opportunity share to start every week. But this guy disappears in some games because of the Atlanta Falcons' tendency to disappear offensively sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have Drake London ranked this high. Do you?
I have, in my personal rankings, I have him like top 50, but not 36.
Yeah, he's closer to like my wide receiver 36 than he is to player 36.
I think that's fair. I thought I was too high on him too.
Yeah, it's not anything to do with Drake London. It's more just the offense. Like I think Mariota's good enough to where you can trust him for games with Drake London, but not against defenses like this in my book. Like, when London plays up against softer defense, it's like, okay, I'll play him. I still have to play him in some leagues. So I'm not saying he's like some garbage can, but it obviously is hard to start him when you see the defense he's playing, even with the injuries.
He's a good player. I can tell you that. Number 3 in target share among all wide receivers heading into this week. It's pretty impressive. How are you feeling about T. Higgins? Banged up ankle. How are you feeling about these Eagles back-to-back? A.J. Brown, Miles Sanders. People want to know about that, especially going against Dallas, whose defense has been honestly strong.
I'm going to be honest again. I'm not a doctor. I always say this. I'm not a fucking doctor, but I don't think T. Higgins is going to play. He didn't practice at all yesterday. He was in like street clothes yesterday, I thought, unless I was looking at the wrong report.
I think you might be right.
That doesn't sound good for his availability on Sunday. Now, obviously, when you're T. Higgins, you could just show up on Sunday, put the pads on, and play. But do I feel confident that he's going to get like normal treatment, or is it going to be like, oh, he's out there for like last week we saw, and then he doesn't get targeted, and then you're out of there, and he basically shot your team in the back of the head. So I don't trust T. Higgins. I don't think he's going to play, and I think that would move Tyler Boyd significantly up my rankings. It doesn't move Jamar Chase at all. Doesn't move him at all for me because
really?
Because I have Jamar Chase ranked so high. Anyways, I mean, last week T. Higgins did his John Cena impression. He was invisible, and fucking Jamar Chase doesn't score 30 points, right? So, I mean, I don't know why how high can you move him? He's already ranked super high.
It's true.
Right? Like, what are you going to move
I get
up,
it.
like, wide receiver
I mean,
3?
That's what we wanted him to be, right? We were talking about pathways for him to be the wide receiver 1 overall in 2022. Let's not forget.
I didn't really think that.
I thought it was in the range of outcomes, but not likely when you're talking about best ball versus season long. Okay, fair enough. Who are some other players that kind of give you the heebie-jeebies as we get into spooky season? For me, it's Michael Pittman going against Jacksonville. The Jacksonville defense has improved, guys. Schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. They are top 5 in the NFL, up there with San Francisco, Buffalo, Philadelphia, all the defenses we know are good. I'm almost ready to say I know Jacksonville's defense is good.
Yeah, Jacksonville's defense is good. I'll answer the second part of your question from earlier. I like A.J. Brown and Miles Sanders. A.J. Brown's going to have down games. It is what it is. It's like you invest in this guy that's super good. You understand the Eagles run the ball a lot. You understand that Jalen Hurts could potentially vulture some points from A.J. Brown. But at the end of the day, he's still A.J. Brown, and you're going to play him, right? The guy literally could score 2 points, and then the next week I'm rolling him out there. He might score 30 points. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Miles Sanders also looks amazing. I was wrong on Miles Sanders. I've been right for ever since he started in the NFL to fade him. But one time he does me dirty. The guy I'm most nervous about is A.J. Dillon. Don't get why we always have him ranked so high. I get it. I understand the upside of A.J. Dillon. But man, oh man, do I ever really feel comfortable? Like, he goes in my lineup, and I'm like, shit, I have to play A.J. Dillon this week. It's not
I got
like,
a question for you.
A.J. Dillon.
I got offered A.J. Dillon for Devin Singletary straight up.
I'd rather have A.J. Dillon. Because
Interesting.
if Aaron Jones gets hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, then you're in an amazing spot. But if Devin Singletary is just kind of like, he's out there, like maybe he has a huge game against the Chiefs because there's just so many points. But typically when there's so many points in Buffalo, they just keep throwing. Like last week, they were just swinging haymakers onto the Steelers. The Steelers already put up the white flag. They were already dead in the ring, like in that Rocky movie. And they just kept beating him up. Like they were just beating the dead guy up on the ground. It was terrible.
They did not care at all. As I've said on these previous shows, all they want to do is score.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is Devin Singletary is 7th in the NFL among running backs in targets, 6th in receptions, 6th in receiving yards. So he is their passing running back.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a good thing to be on the Bills. I don't know.
The Bills,
I've been higher on him all season.
The Bills literally will kill a team like they're in Call of Duty and then just teabag them for 10 seconds. That's what they do when they keep passing the ball instead of running the ball. Like, instead of just walking away, they're just teabagging the guy for like 10 minutes. It's embarrassing. Like, it's not actually embarrassing, but it's like embarrassing to be the other team.
They want to embarrass
you.
Yes.
Yeah, like, they're going to throw the ball and you just can't stop it. Like, they never run. They just keep throwing. It's crazy.
A.J. Dillon's metrics aren't that good, man. 30th in snap share, 34th in opportunity share. We always knew he was going to share the field with Jones, but it's not like he has huge passing upside. 28th in targets, 34th in receiving yards, 26th in expected fantasy points per game. Singletary's up at 24. See, I don't know. If it's a pure tie in opportunity value, which is what I consider expected fantasy points to be, why don't I just go with the better offense? It's the same position. It's weird, but I get why our statistic-based projections will put Dillon ahead. But it's how I think about things too. Why don't we move to tier 3 and why don't we get to some rapid fire questions? This is Nick's hardest part of the whole show, is actually going rapid fire. Miguel says, I traded Fournette for Chase and Garrett Wilson. What do you think?
But if you don't need a running back, then that's good. If you needed a running back, then I'm not sure I would have done that.
I'm not sure I would have done it either unless you are set at the RB position. Well said. I traded Adams and Myers for Debo and Fournette. I love that trade. Love it.
Yeah, I love that trade as well. Except for I am much higher on Myers than most, but even then, I still like that trade a lot.
Yeah, but getting Fournette, man, RB1 in both opportunity value and production, beautiful.
Nice.
Should I trade Aaron Jones, Chris Olave, Freiermuth for No?
Why would you do that? That's
I would do this trade 100%.
Chris Olave might be a top 10 receiver. You're going to trade Chris Olave and Aaron Jones. Like, dude, Aaron Jones is one A.J. Dillon injury away from superstardom. Sure, you can do the trade. I don't care, but I would not do that.
Freiermuth is like his 4th concussion in 2 years. Olave also in the concussion protocol. Aaron Jones sharing a backfield. And Cooper Kupp is one of those absolute game-changing, week-changing players.
Agreed on that.
I think this is a lot closer than you're saying.
Sure, you can do it if you want. I don't think it's an egregious trade to accept, but I would rather
I don't
have
care. I
Olave.
don't care about your fantasy team. You do whatever you want.
No, well, to be fair, people should do whatever they want
that
in
is
reality.
honestly true.
But yeah, I just think I like Olave more than maybe you do. Like, I have a higher view. Like, sure, he has a concussion, he misses this week, whatever. Cooper Kupp has a foot injury.
Oh, he's
and
also getting
James Robinson.
J-Rob. He's also
Okay,
getting
then yeah.
J-Rob.
Accept it then.
See, it's just one J-Rob away, one 22% opportunity share running back from the Jaguars away from getting a Cooper Kupp deal done.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
a
you're
lot
also
closer
just
than
getting
we
another
realized.
player that has more upside. Like, I mean, Robinson has a lot of upside.
Is Keenan Allen playing this week? I know I ask you every day. Keenan Allen watch continues on.
No idea. I keep looking it up, keep trying to find anything. There's like no information. He might play on Sunday. Flip a coin. I don't fucking know. Like, I keep trying to look it up. There's nothing on him. And they play Monday, so we're not going to know until much later anyways.
Oh, that is the worst. Okay, so what if there is a situation where we don't know? Is he? You just got to bench him this week? He's playing Denver too.
I have him ranked as like wide receiver 24, and I said it in the the receiver rankings video that, look, realistically, I'm not even that confident when he plays that you should be rolling him out there. Like, he might show up banged up. We haven't seen him since week 1. I mean, sure, when he's healthy, you would like to play him, but since it's Monday, it confuses everything. So just let him ride the pine.
Oh, it sucks. Love Keenan Allen when he's healthy. Can't trust him this week. Speaking of can't trust him, like, I can't tell you how much higher in my gut-based rankings before I bring the math into it. I have Breece Hall over Najee Harris. I want to start Breece Hall much more on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Breece Hall's in really good position. Last week, it was looking crazy that he wasn't going to score a touchdown. It's like, oh my God, that was Michael Carter has 2 touchdowns, and yet Breece Hall has nothing, and then he obviously ends up scoring. That was a fantastic game out of Breece Hall. The Dolphins defense, they literally wouldn't have been able to stop me if I stepped in as the running back. So great game out of Breece Hall. But I do expect the Jets to get humbled in a big way against the Packers. And at least I hope so, because these Jets fans are wild.
The minute the Jets show any promise, this town turns into an absolute circus. It's the same thing with the Mets, man. We just experienced it. Like they're slightly above 500. They're in first place in the middle of July. We're like, we're going to the ship, play the trumpets, go viral. Well, here we are, October. Anyway, same thing with the Jets, man. We love to see the new look Jets. Let's not beat around the bush here. Like, Hall, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and even Zach Wilson are a lot better than anything they've had in the last few years, certainly since the Fitzpatrick, B. Marsh, Eric Decker days. But it's going to take a minute.
Baby. That's true. I mean, the fucking Jets are 1-12 in the last 13 AFC East games, so congrats on being a third-string quarterback.
They're like that meme of the guy like chugging champagne on his face for winning 12th place.
Yeah, that is literally the Jets.
Let's move on to tier 3. And guys, let's talk about the different paths to success you can have in the sports prognostication world. Most of us get into guessing about sports through fantasy football, right? That's ultimately what we're doing with all of this, is trying to figure out how teams are going to utilize certain players, and we're figuring out how those players' utilization is going to translate into stats. That's what we're really betting on. And ultimately, that's the same thing as sports betting. So maybe your state's about to go legal or just went legal in the last year or so and you haven't dipped your toes in the water. I do really think now is one of the best times to get in there because of the offers they have. One of the hardest things to do in any kind of sports guessing is just get free wins. And one of those free wins is at the top of your screen right now. When you bet $5 on a team that simply wins their game, you get $200 in free bets. So you just start off at such a strong baseline. This is not an offer they have at every book all the time, which is why we wanted to point it out to you, especially you guys who are like struggling to get into 6th, 7th place. That happens for some fantasy rosters sometimes. No fault of your own. But at the same time, we want to win those league winnings back at a certain point. And so some of you might be playing for $200 or less in league winnings. You could get that money by just going to the video description below and clicking the link for DraftKings, betting $5 on the biggest favorite you can find. Doesn't have to be NFL. It can be literally any sport. And then getting that $200 start. And it gives you such a runway so you can try things. You can ask us questions. We can shoot you over to the Odd Shopper channel, our brother channel over at Stochastic that gets people ready for all sports, all types betting. I don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to harp on it too long, but I honestly think it's a great deal. And especially for those of you who are kind of falling, what was that Jordan Peele movie where they're like falling into the dark? Get Out. Get Out.
Oh, yeah, Get Out.
Yeah. If your fantasy team feels like that, why don't you pull yourself from the abyss? Get that free $200 because it truly is that simple. It's one click away in the video description below. Thanks so much, guys. I think it's going to really help you out. Okay, let's get into tier 3, I believe, whenever you're ready, and we'll go back to the questions. We got about 15 minutes left here on this Friday. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. Here we go. PPR, Pitman or Kirk this week? That's a good question.
Look, I can't quit Christian Kirk. I mean, he had amazing games, then 2 down games. I'm playing Christian Kirk over Pitman. Pitman absolutely shit down the throat of the Jaguars last time they played. Was also a different looking Colts team to what they have now. That was a Colts team with hope. Now this team is decimated to the core. I'm going Christian Kirk.
Me too. Even though Pittman's slightly higher in our rankings, my obviously 36 and 45, incredibly close. We do have a tier break.
Yeah.
It's a true coin flip.
Agreed.
Yeah, Kirk for me if I were in that situation. Just my honest truth. CEH or Kareem Hunt? CEH for me.
Yeah, CH easily for me as well.
It's a tough Buffalo defense, but it's a matchup that has a 54-point total now, 4 points higher in implied points via the Vegas odds compared to any other game on the slate. Should have plenty of scoring opportunity for all players on the Chiefs.
Yeah, they might score 3 times the amount of points we saw last night.
What's a realistic trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Well, we just saw one, Chase. I think that's too much.
That's way too much. Yeah. For D-Hop, I'm looking to trade just some couple of underperforming players, maybe.
Would you do Waddle for D-Hop?
No way.
Okay. Would you do Deontay Johnson for D-Hop?
Yeah, easily.
So look where they are. Look on the screen right now.
Yeah.
I understand 44 for Waddle is because of Skylar Thompson's likely start this week against the Minnesota Vikings, but just saying, fantasy football is a weekly game, especially when people are starting to get into that I need a win mode in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
But I mean, this week, if you make the trade, how many points is D-Hop going to score you? The answer is 0.
Well, that's true, but I'm just pointing out in general. What about Godwin for D-Hop?
No, because I think Godwin's upside is just higher. Like if Godwin hits, you have a top 5 receiver potentially. If D-Hop hits, I think you're looking more at like top 14.
What about Lockett or Metcalf for D-Hop?
At this point, no. Geno Smith looks too good.
Okay.
You asked me this 2 weeks ago. I would have Lockett. Actually, I would do Lockett for Hopkins, not D-Hop. Or Lockett. Oh my gosh.
Lockett.
Lockett, pop it, polka dot it. Lockett for D-Hop. But I'm not doing DK for D-Hop is what I meant. Sorry. My brain sometimes does that. Or it doesn't work,
That was kind of fun. We went on a ride with you. Gordon or Mostert?
Gordon for me.
Me too. PPR ETN with an increased use. Yes, he is. Last 2 games, he's had more usage than Robinson or Dillon.
Dude, I'm just going to keep rolling out Dillon and just hoping he does something. I mean, look, I just don't see ETN having a huge game. That's just my thing. Like, I could see in my head Dillon doing better than ETN. ETN just seems like he's going to get you 8 points. Dillon might get you 15, 20.
There you go. Thoughts on Jonathan Taylor and the Colts offense? And Alex, what's up, man? Happy to see you here.
I like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to bounce back, but I don't have the biggest of hopes for the Colts offense. Their offensive line was projected to be amazing. Their offensive line's a fucking turnstile, so that doesn't help. But I still think Jonathan Taylor is good enough to get it done. But again, he's not this locked-in RB1. Going into the season, he wasn't the clear RB1, but you get what I mean. He's not like this locked-in top 5 running back like we thought he was during the fantasy draft season.
That part hurts, but it is the truth. Now, a player that I know our founder or co-founder, Alex Baker, has been high on in these projections for weeks, if not years. Well, only 2 years. But Rondell Moore consistently ends up high on our rankings. Hard to really put him as a top 50 player. I get why the math puts him there. And that's why, again, I said this yesterday if you were on the stream, but I'll say it again over and over. I get why it's there. My gut isn't putting him anywhere near here. I'm putting him in tier 4 personally, and we have a 3A and a 3B. So there are several groups of players that I have above Rondell Moore right now. Got utilized pretty heavily, but I saw that usage kind of situational last week, a lot of 2-minute drill usage. I'll just say I get why he's ranked here. You may have 3 wide receivers on your roster who are better than him. He's not a must start for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rondell Moore's like a big play guy, right? He's like a boom or bust type of guy where he might score 5 points if this game goes crazy, which it has the ability to, right? On paper, this seems like a very exciting matchup. Rondell Moore might smash, but he's not a guy that I'm forcing into my lineups. Like you said, you might even have 4 receivers that are better than Rondell Moore because of where he was going in drafts, and you could have probably just picked him up, right? Because he missed so many games.
Yeah, he was like a couple of auction drafts, a $1 player, a $2 player.
Yeah.
Ended up on the waiver wire some places. At the same time, I still think that this offense in Arizona is searching for something. And there's already some chatter in chat talking about how we're underrating D-Hop. That is a thought that went through my mind, Lepri, as you were doing those what ifs. We'll see, especially with all those weeks off. It's still a player I'm very excited to see in an offense that should have to perform again because their defense is turning out to be one of the worst in the league. Any players that just seem, I think we can move on too. No. Your instincts were exceptional there. Perfect. Let's move on to 52 through 63. This is tier B of tier 3.
Yes.
I like how that rhymes. Your boy Jacoby Myers shows up. Jerry Jeudy, so sad. And then like there's some players here who get a lot of usage, but rarely have efficiency. And then there are a lot of players here who have efficiency, but don't always get the usage. Hello, Gabe Davis. Any favorites here and any players who should not be in this group?
Yeah, 3 players that are way too low are Jacoby Myers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Gabe Davis. Look, Gabe Davis, I understand is risky every week, but we saw the upside. This guy legitimately backhanded the Chiefs last year like his name was Will Smith. So I fully expect Gabe Davis to go crazy in this game. Now, again, he's not scoring however many touchdowns he scored in that game, but you get what I'm saying, right? He's going to go crazy. He's going to have a big game. Jacoby Myers is just an
They're going to get his wife's name out of his mouth. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes, I understand.
Well, Patrick Mahomes people do need to get Patrick Mahomes' wife name out of their mouth, but they always talk about her. She is kind of annoying, but Gabe Davis is definitely a start.
That's a good take.
Jacoby Myers, definitely a start. This guy's a walking 10, 12 targets. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a start. Oh my God, he had 1 bad game last week. Don't fucking panic, man. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still going to get the touches. He's still the guy. The game projects to be super high scoring. And then in terms of guys that are too high, I don't want anything to do with Cam Akers. Cam Akers is boring. He's slow. He's uninspiring. He's just fucking boring. James Robinson is too high, and so is Zeke. Zeke and Cam Akers are in the crew where they just run and they're just in quicksand. I made this joke about how if you ever played Mario Double Dash, the video game, Mario Kart Double Dash, that was on like the
GameCube? Oh,
yeah, and then there's that one, the sand map, and you know there's a hole, and when you try to get out of that hole in the sand map, like you go slow. That's like how Zeke and Cam Akers run, just permanently trying to get out of that hole. And if you get sucked in, you die. Or you don't die technically because it's like a fucking Mario game, but then that guy picks you up.
That guy comes down.
Yeah.
And you got to time it. And sometimes you can spin out. Wow, that is such a specific reference. And I knew exactly where you were at. Appreciate that right now. Here's what I said in my start sit video that came out yesterday afternoon on this very channel. Take a shower after you start Cam Akers because it's going to feel real dirty. But it's 10.5 point favorites at home. I think you still have to do it. This player has a 53% opportunity share. And here's the deal, guys. Almost the best part about starting Cam Akers, if he ruins things for you, you have permission to drop him. This is a surefire situation where a running back should go off, or at least just have a serviceable game. And if he doesn't, perfect. We know he can't do it, even in the best of situations. Bye-bye. If you can get anything for him, if he blows it this week against Carolina as huge favorites, he probably can't. But I'm starting him this week and dropping him next if he fails.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same spot with Matthew Stafford, where it's like, oh my god, this guy's been like a bottom 20 quarterback, like he hasn't been a top 20 quarterback for weeks. It's like, oh my, but he's got this matchup. He's got this good matchup. It's like, oh, you're gonna play him. He's probably gonna play bad, but that's just kind of the same scenario I'm in with him. Like I talked him up all offseason. He's clearly not the guy I thought he was. But it is what it is. Jason says, fix the super chat. Is super chat not working? We had the same issue last night. The super chats were not working on
Oh, really?
the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel, and I had no idea how to fix it.
Okay.
No idea.
Jason, you may have inadvertently helped us a ton because the second we go off today, I will get in touch with the team, make sure we get that started. And guys, we really appreciate you hanging out and even considering the fact that you would give us a super chat means a lot. We'll be here Sunday morning. If you want to throw it our way, then you don't have to, but we're here also every Tuesday through Friday. Also, don't want to give anything specific, but there may be some new shows in the works here. Obviously, as we get into mid-season, and we get into a routine a little bit. We like what we like, and we find out what works. We look at the numbers, and then we're going to figure out some new ways to make things entertaining for you here at the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel. Always on the grind. Appreciate you guys a lot hanging out. Why don't we do what we did yesterday, and go through a recap, like a super quick 2-minute recap of 1 through 63. I'll let you start us off with tier 1. But just for the people hanging out right now, just because we're wrapping things up in the next few minutes. And then as we finish 63, we'll pop into the next tier 4 if you're ready. And close it out with that. And we'll answer your questions also as we get going. So if you want to throw it back to 1, I will answer a question here. Ayuk or Waddle? Waddle for me, even with Skylar Thompson. Yeah?
Yeah, Waddle.
Cool.
I just don't trust Ayuk.
Yeah, not yet. Not even against Atlanta. Like, it could happen because Atlanta sucks defensively, but it's not something we can really predict. He's still the 4th or 5th option opportunity-wise on a low volume offense. Hit us with tier 1.
Okay, so 1 through 12, all of these guys I'm going to be starting, basically locking them into my lineup, except for Walker. I think there is a scenario where you might have players that you can start over Walker. But again, that's only because you just picked them up and maybe you already have. There's people that, like, my one team, I have Christian McCaffrey and Barkley. I have fucking 1 win. But yeah, I would not be forcing Kenneth Walker into my lineup in that league. And then after that, we move to tier 2. Tyreek Hill through Hollywood Brown. Basically, all these guys are no-brainers aside from James Conner. If James Conner does not play, we're moving in Eno Benjamin. I'm pretty confident that Eno Benjamin is going to be able to put up numbers. Their other running back, Williams, is also hurt. So this just seems like a kind of, the coast is clear for if Conner misses. I think he's going to miss. That Eno Benjamin is a smash. Another guy to talk about real quick. Aaron Jones is kind of in the spot where you're forced to start him, but I don't feel very confident in him. And then I think Alvin Kamara should be ranked at least a little bit higher because even last week, Taysom Hill had that huge game. Alvin Kamara still smashed. Next up, we got flex tier 2 continued 25 through 36. In here, the one player that interests me the most has to be Drake London because I do think Drake London could have a huge spot. He also might completely shit the bed on your team because of the matchup. That's why he is the interesting guy to point out here. Then we move to the continued part of tier number 2, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. I don't want anything to do with Najee Harris. You can't really trade him. The guy has zero worth. I've seen some trades where people have finagled their way out of Najee Harris. I think in most leagues where you're playing with a bunch of competent owners, you're not going to get much except for a half-eaten bag of potato chips. Mike Nowak with the super chat.
So that's working. Guys. That's good to see. Jason, we'll still figure out whatever we can do on our end, but it looks like it is working for some people.
Okay. Eno or James Robinson, I would go with Eno, and it's not even remotely close.
You go with Eno? Yes.
Yeah, not even close.
Not close for me either. You were doing great, though. I did ruin your flow, but I did want to throw the super chat, not only to say thank you, but to show that at least for some, it is working right now. Jason, if you want to let us, reach out to us, let us know what happened. It could be on YouTube's end, might not be able to control that part, but we'll do whatever we can.
Sometimes it is on YouTube's end, so it's not Jason. It probably is not Jason's fault because it was happening last night too. So in this tier, back to tier 2, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. Again, I just don't trust Najee Harris. But I also think Mike Evans should be ranked above Chris Godwin at this point because he's healthy. Tier 3A, Raheem Mostert through Tyler Higbee. These are also guys that you're kind of going to have to start, but you're in a range where it gets a little bit more interesting. I do think Raheem Mostert is in a smash spot. The question is, will they start using more Chase Edmonds? Because even the Dolphins coaches talked about how they don't want to give up on him, and they think that he's going to be able to perform better than what he's done over the last 2 weeks. Sorry, I just had a burp. But yeah, Raheem Mostert is the guy there right now. But I do think Chase Edmonds will still be creeping in there. And I think Chase Edmonds could reclaim the role in the throne as the number one guy. Besides him, I think J.K. Dobbins is pretty interesting. But I am worried about the fact that once Gus Edwards returns, he could completely derail the J.K. Dobbins bandwagon. Players 52 through 63. There's a lot of players in here that I don't like, and there's a lot of players that I like as well. Ezekiel Elliott and James Robinson to me are basically no-goes in most leagues. In both my 14-team leagues, I have James Robinson. I'm playing him, but that's because it's a 14-team league. If you're in a 10 or 12-team league, I hope you have better running backs than James Robinson. And then to close out here, we got the last players that we haven't even talked about yet. Players 64 through 67. Juju Smith-Schuster, the king of TikTok, Devontae Smith, DJ Moore, and Dallas Goedert. I read that the splits tell you that PJ Walker is better for DJ Moore. I think most people are better than Baker Mayfield for DJ Moore. Sexfine.pro is in the chat. Find love on the best dating site. You'll love to see that. So shout out to them. Thank you guys for watching the stream. I'm
enjoying this.
Here is Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is my favorite player. My least favorite player is Juju Smith-Schuster. Fire that fucker into the sun.
My other than sexfine.pro, my least favorite player on this list is Juju Smith-Schuster as well. But there are still some leagues in bye week hell right now because of the makeup of the team, still starting Juju. We are pretty much at capacity, guys. This has been a whole lot of fun. If you have tier 4 or just the whole sheet, maybe we can throw that on there just for the people.
The whole sheet on.
Yeah, that's what we like to do here at the end. Appreciate you guys hanging out this Friday morning, and definitely keep an eye on the channel. Make sure to like the channel and subscribe as well. And if you want to know when we're going live, because we do have some new shows and new times that we're going to go live pretty soon here, hit that notification bell. You guys know what to do. You guys are YouTube pros. And I really do think that using that video description link to go to DraftKings, taking advantage of that sportsbook offer is one of the best I've really seen at any platform. Reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll point you in the right direction. We will even give you some advice. You can follow Nick at Notorious FNTSY. Follow me at Draftaholic. We're just honestly so happy you're here. So happy you're hanging out. You guys rock. Ron the GOAT comes in at the very end just to say hi. We consider us #blessed. We got this full board on the screen here. That's a little small. Can we go full screen?
Yeah. Can we? Well, I think if you're watching this, it's much bigger than what we're looking at.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm seeing it on the screen now in full. Throw it on full screen there just to get a last glimpse. Take a screenshot. Do what you need to do, guys. But we are going to head out onto the weekend, onto week 6, and then we'll be on to basically the second half of the fantasy football season. Sir. Dude, this goes fast. Where can the people find you today, always, and certainly this weekend?
Yeah, you can find me on that sex website, sexfine.pro. But in reality, you can find me on at Notorious FNTSY on Twitter, Notorious Fantasy by Stochastic on YouTube. That's basically it. Follow me on Twitter. I tweet out a bunch of memes that I find to be funny. And Robert, since you asked your question twice, do I put Mike Williams on the flex and put Eno Benjamin in? I would rather play Mike Williams over Benjamin. I hope that helps you. I love you. Love all you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys had a great time. And Savoca, where can they find you?
Oh, right here, of course, on the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel. We've got VODs, we got live videos, and of course, you can catch us over the brother channel, Notorious Fantasy Football by Stochastic, and on the DFS channel, the one that started it all, marching towards 100,000 followers. Very proud of it, getting even close to that number, Stochastic DFS. That's the one, guys. We appreciate you guys so much. Nick will be back here on this channel Sunday morning, talking live Q&A. Until then, I'm Matt. He's Nick. We'll see you guys later.